Hi everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Welcome back to the channel.
Welcome to Novels Wonderland, Naruto Infinite Reincarnation, Chapter 74-88, Chapter 74, Campaigning for Hokage. 1,589 words. Chapter 74, Campaigning for Hokage. You mean, you want to elect me as Hokage? Inside Konoha Hospital, you stood quietly, looking at Koharu and the person beside her. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. Correct. Hamura nodded. If Hiruzen were still here, he would undoubtedly be the best candidate for Hokage. But he has gone missing. The teacher is gone, but Danzo is still here. Kei spoke softly. He is also Hokage-sama's student, and his strength is top tier in the village. He has the qualifications to become Hokage. Although I do not want to say this, Danzo's personality is not suitable for the Hokage seat. Koharu hesitated, then finally sighed. His temperament is too extreme. If he becomes Hokage, the village will suffer a disaster. Compared to Hiruzen's mild nature, Danzo's cold disposition was the kind many people disliked. Even his teammates, Hamura and Koharu, did not want someone like that sitting above them. In comparison, Kei's image was far more suitable. He had a gentle temperament. He maintained good relationships with Hiruzen's supporters, including the Ino Shikacho. He was also on good terms with Koharu, Hamura, and others. Back when Tobirama was still alive, Tobirama had held Kei in high regard as well. Kei's ability was obvious to everyone. The results of his leadership in the medical department reforms over the past few years were visible throughout the village. Across Konoha, even the Hiruzen of the past could not compare to Kei in that particular area. And the most crucial factor was his background. Kei came from the Uchiha clan. Originally, that should have been a disadvantage. But through Kei's deliberate efforts over the years, the mark of the Uchiha on him had faded. Meanwhile, his identity as Hiruzen's disciple had become far more prominent. As Hiruzen's disciple, he could inherit many things. Much of the foundation Tobirama had prepared for Hiruzen's succession could now be redirected to support Kei, now that Hiruzen was absent. For example, right now. Kei, you are Hiruzen's disciple. Hamura spoke steadily. Hiruzen was the Hokage-sensei designated before his death. Now that Hiruzen is gone, as Hiruzen's only disciple, you should naturally become a nominee for the next Hokage. A disciple inheriting a teacher's legacy was common in this world. With Hiruzen missing, it felt natural to Hamura and the others that Kei should inherit Hiruzen's legacy. Of course, that was assuming they did not know Kei was the one who had dealt with Hiruzen. I am still too young, after all. Kei showed hesitation as Hamura and Koharu tried to persuade him. That is not a problem. Koharu pressed on. Your abilities are obvious to all, and your strength is no less than Danzo's. If you step forward, everyone will be convinced. I will consider it further. Kei did not agree immediately. Of course, this was partly an act, and partly practical. Agreeing too eagerly would expose his intentions and place him in a passive position. The Hokage election had only just begun. There was no need to rush. Kei did not have to wait long. Just as he expected, only a short time passed before the situation outside began to shift rapidly. There were interludes as well. The Uchiha clan had entered the Hokage election in a high-profile, brazen way. If he had simply campaigned, it might have been manageable. Instead, he did it with great fanfare, even threatening smaller clans who were unwilling to support the Uchiha, claiming they would pay the price in the future. His style was far too flamboyant. He had no sense of restraint. Even if he truly planned to settle scores later, he should never have said it aloud. But the Uchiha clan head was exactly that kind of person. Not only did he refuse to put on a front, he spoke whatever was on his mind. Regarding this performance, Kei could only shake his head internally. To an ordinary person, such behavior might be unbelievable. But coming from the Uchiha, it was painfully normal. He had seen the Uchiha's political ability before. He had no reason to doubt it now. And once the news spread, resistance within Konoha against the Uchiha taking power only grew stronger. There were already many who did not want to see the Uchiha rise. Now there were even more. This cannot continue. In a quiet courtyard, Kagami stood beneath a tree, looking at Kei with urgency. The clan head has gone mad. If he becomes Hokage, he will turn the village into a mess. Kei stood nearby, calm as ever, pruning flowers and plants like a gardener. He had been like this throughout the entire period. No matter how chaotic the outside world became, he stayed here as if he were ignoring everything, maintaining the same indifferent attitude. What about Danzo? Kei asked softly after hearing Kagami. What does he say? Danzo, he. Kagami hesitated. Then he finally sighed. He has changed. He feels like a stranger now. In order to fight for the Hokage seat, he is doing whatever it takes. With the Uchiha clan head causing problems on one side, Danzo's side did not look much better. To seize the Hokage position, Danzo was also using many tactics. They had some effect, but they also disgusted many who watched from the outside. Because of that, Kagami and others felt even more disappointed. No one wanted a leader who relied on dirty methods sitting above them. This was especially true for people like Kagami and Hamura, people who genuinely loved Konoha. To put it bluntly, in this fight for Hokage, Kei had not even truly made a move yet, and his rivals were already destroying themselves one after another. Sometimes, you do not need to be exceptional. You just need your opponents to be bad enough. This was a world of comparing who was less terrible. Is that so? Kei let out a quiet sigh. Hearing Kagami's words, he seemed moved, falling into thought. Kagami did not interrupt. He simply watched Kei with expectation. Among Hiruzen's many friends, most had good relationships with Kei. Even Danzo had maintained normal friendship and social interaction with him in the past. But among them all, Kagami was the one closest to Kei. On one hand, they were from the same clan. On the other, it was admiration. Unlike many Uchiha, Kagami truly loved Konoha and truly believed in Hiruzen. But who did not carry the dream of becoming Hokage somewhere in their heart? People like Kagami and Hamura had never stepped forward only because they understood their own limits. They knew they were not enough to shoulder that role. But Kei was different. In Kagami's view, although Kei was young, his ability was even a cut above his teacher, Hiruzen. Within Konoha, the only one who could truly compare to him was Tobirama, who was now gone. Kagami had no hope of becoming Hokage himself, but this junior from his own clan did. And there was also the debt. When Hamura's group returned to Konoha, most were fine, but Kagami's injuries had been severe. If Kei had not treated him in time, Kagami might have died. With that, plus their shared clan and their previous relationship, Kagami supported Kei from every angle. What does the clan say? After a long time, Kei finally looked up. His eyes met Kagami's. If I step forward to campaign for Hokage, what will the people in the clan say? Most people in the clan support the clan head. Joy appeared instantly on Kagami's face. But if you, Kei, are willing to step forward, I can guarantee at least 30% will support you. Many of the rest will take a wait-and-see attitude. Kei was Uchiha by blood. Over the years, as a genius of the clan, even though he had deliberately downplayed his Uchiha identity, he still held great prestige within the Uchiha. From any perspective, he was an astonishing genius. Kagami was proof of that. Compared to Kei, who came from an ordinary background, Kagami's family was not ordinary within the Uchiha. Though not part of the clan head's branch, they had produced many elders and carried great influence. Otherwise, Tobirama would never have chosen Kagami as his student. With Kagami's support, and Kei's own reputation, it would be enough to pull the majority of Uchiha shinobi toward Kei. That is enough. Kei nodded. In that case, let's do it. He did not think 30% was small. On the contrary, he felt it was already quite high. After all, to minimize his Uchiha identity, he had not done much inside the clan. In that situation, achieving this level of support was already good. "What about Senior Torafu?" he asked. "He has not stated his position, but he also does not support Danzo." Kagami spoke confidently. "As long as you step forward, Hamura and I will go persuade him together. There will definitely be no problem." Okimichi Torafu had also been part of Tobarama's guard unit, and he represented the three traditional clans, the Ino Shikacho. If Torafu supported Kei, then Kei would effectively gain the backing of the Ino Shikacho. And those three clans had always been Hiruzen's supporters. In that case, Kei's voice turned quiet and steady. "Let's begin. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 75, Danzo feels a slight chill. 1130 words. Chapter 75, Danzo feels a slight chill. What? Inside the Shimura clan compound, Danzo suddenly looked up. Shock flashed across his face as he stared at the person in front of him. Is that true? Yes. The messenger's expression was solemn. It has been confirmed. Uchiha Kei has made a public statement and is preparing to enter the Hokage election. A significant number of people have already expressed their support. To think it would turn out like this. Hearing the news, Danzo could not help but feel a headache building behind his eyes. In a Hokage election, success depended not only on one's own strength, but also on the opponents standing in the way. Originally, Danzo had been confident. He believed he would most likely become Konoha's third Hokage. After all, his main opponent was the Uchiha clan head. Defeating the Uchiha clan head did not seem difficult. Even before Danzo made a move, the clan head had already stirred up widespread resentment throughout the village. If things continued like that, the Hokage seat would inevitably fall into Danzo's hands. But at this moment, Kei stepped forward. If Kei had stayed out of it, everything would have been simple. Yet the instant he entered, Danzo and many others were thrown into alarm. Before today, Danzo knew Kei's reputation and influence. He had a general understanding of it, but he had never truly felt its weight. Now he did. The moment Kei officially stepped forward, a wave swept through Konoha. Many shinobi who had previously stayed silent immediately began to speak. They poured into the streets, openly supporting Kei, calling for him to become Hokage. This was the result of Kei's years of work. Over the years, it had looked like he did not do much. In reality, he had been quietly stabilizing Konoha's foundation from the shadows. Konoha Hospital had been built under his direction. A vast number of medical ninja were his students, personally trained by him. He had opened the earliest medical training classes. He had participated in compiling textbooks. By now, more than half of Konoha's medical ninja were his students. It was no exaggeration to say that within Konoha's current medical ninja community, Kei's prestige was even greater than the later Tsunade's. Normally, when he was not needed, those supporters seemed quiet. But the moment Kei stepped onto the stage, his influence erupted, terrifying in its scale. Medical ninja began calling on everyone around them, urging them to support Kei. And with that group as a base, they could influence even more. The display had only begun, yet it was already shaking the village. Danzo felt the danger as well. As he watched the swelling crowds in Konoha and heard the villagers whispering everywhere, the only thing he felt was jealousy. Support from ordinary villagers and ordinary shinobi might seem insignificant. But it represented a level of prestige that had become unreachable for most people. And with those people as a foundation, Kei could influence many others, including those with far greater status. After all, even in Konoha, ordinary shinobi made up the majority. Kei held near absolute prestige among them. That kind of standing naturally spread upward. Seeing this, even many jonin who had originally intended to support Danzo began to waver. If Kei had not entered the race, they would have supported Danzo simply because there was no better option. But now that Kei had stepped forward, they suddenly had another choice. At the very least, compared to Danzo, Kei was far more popular. In an instant, the people around Danzo began to hesitate. "Sensei, was this also your arrangement?" Feeling the shift around him, Danzo let out a long sigh. Before he entered the race, he had not felt it. But now that he was truly campaigning, he finally understood how deep the resources Tobirama had prepared for Hiruzen really were. That included Kei. If Hiruzen had not gone missing, Kei, as Hiruzen's student, would have been a loyal supporter. Then this power would have belonged to Hiruzen. It was precisely because Hiruzen was gone that Danzo even had the chance to compete. Otherwise, with Danzo's current base, let alone fighting for Hokage, he would not even have qualified to stand among the candidates. "I cannot give up yet," Danzo told himself. "It is not over until the very end." Torafu, and Hamura. His eyes shifted into the distance as he thought of his old comrades. They were all pillars of Konoha, each representing a major faction. As long as they were willing to support him, there was still room to compete. With that thought, Danzo strode toward where Hamura and the others were staying. But only a short time later, he returned with a livid expression. Not one of his old friends supported him. He had expected resistance, but he had not expected such a thorough refusal. Hamura and Koharu rejected him on the spot, stating clearly that they would support Kei. Torafu did not refuse outright, but he did not agree either, only saying tactfully that he did not wish to be involved. As for Kagami, Danzo had not even counted on him. Kagami was from the same clan as Kei, and Kei had personally treated him before. Whether by emotion or relationship, Kagami would certainly support Kei. After making the rounds, Danzo realized that not a single one of his old comrades stood with him. His heart grew cold. His support base was far weaker than he had imagined. He had thought that even if they did not openly back him, they would at least refuse to side with his opponent out of respect for their past. But it seemed he had been overthinking. Torafu might remain neutral because of their history. But Hamura, Koharu, and the others were firmly on Kei's side. And Kagami did not even need to be mentioned. Danzo's situation was worse than he had imagined. The only breakthrough point right now lies in. Danzo's gaze turned toward the Uchiha clan compound. The Uchiha. Of course, he was not expecting the Uchiha to support him. Setting aside Danzo's long-standing attitude toward them, the clan would never abandon their own leader to support an outsider like him. What Danzo was considering was something else. Kei was also Uchiha by blood, yet he had carved out his own path and was now competing directly with the Uchiha clan head for the Hokage seat. Putting himself in their shoes, Danzo could easily imagine how furious the Uchiha clan head must be right now. If Danzo could spark conflict between those two sides, he might still find an opening to turn the tide. TL, check out my newly released fanfic. Title, Starting in One Piece with Vector Manipulation. Chapter 76, Meeting Uzumaki Nido. 1058 words. Chapter 76, Meeting Uzumaki Nido. Danzo was deep in thought, an especially fierce headache pounding at his temples. But soon, he made a decision. He had no choice but to act according to his plan. Given how unfavorable his situation was, this was already his only chance. Meanwhile, some distance away, Kei was inside the Senju clan compound. If outsiders discovered that, they would be stunned. No matter how one looked at it, Kei was Uchiha by blood. And the Senju and the Uchiha had been sworn enemies for generations. In the past, only Madara had ever walked into the Senju compound as an Uchiha. Kei might be the second to accomplish it. Keep it up, Kei. Inside the Senju compound, Tsunade clenched her fists, her eyes bright as she cheered him on. I absolutely support you becoming Hokage. When I grow up, you can pass the Hokage position to me and let me be Konoha's fourth Hokage. Several years had passed, and Tsunade had grown quite a bit. She was now an early teen, already carrying herself like a young kunoichi. Under Tobirama's arrangements, she attended the ninja academy like any ordinary student, and her grades were excellent. Within Konoha, she was already recognized as one of the most brilliant geniuses of her generation. Becoming Hokage isn't that easy. Kei met her gaze and smiled. If you want that goal, you'll have to work much harder. Definitely. Tsunade nodded without hesitation. None of the students my age can beat me. Except for one named Orochimaru who's somewhat decent, the rest aren't anything special. What about Jiraiya? Kei asked. He seems pretty capable too. TCH. He's just a dead last. The moment Jiraiya's name came up, Tsunade looked openly disdainful. If Tsunade and Orochimaru at this age were absolute geniuses, then Jiraiya still looked completely unremarkable. His talent had not awakened yet, and his performance was mediocre. In the original path, it was Hiruzen who later noticed Jiraiya's potential and took him as a disciple, eventually shaping him into the Toad Sage. For now, it was still too early. Kei kept walking, thoughts steady, expression unchanged. Up ahead, trees thickened, and several senju stood among them, guarding the inner area. Lady Nito is waiting for you inside. A middle-aged woman stepped forward and spoke to Kei. It was Tuka, a senju who had once followed Hashirama, and one of the few elite jonin still remaining within the senju today. Her attitude toward Kei was neither warm nor openly hostile. Only when she looked at Tsunade did her expression soften slightly. Thank you for the trouble. Kei did not react to Tuka's tone. He simply nodded and continued forward. After a short walk, he reached the deeper part of the compound. A woman was seated there quietly, waiting for him. Uzumaki Nito. The first Hokage's wife. And Konoha's Nine Tails Jinchuriki. At this time, with Hashirama and Tobirama gone one after another, Mito was the undisputed strongest person in all of Konoha. You're here. As Kei approached, Mito turned toward him and smiled. Sit down and have some tea first. As she spoke, she personally prepared tea for Kei, pouring from a pot that had already been readied. If others saw this, they would be shocked. In Konoha, Mito was not only the strongest, she also carried the highest seniority. She was the first Hokage's wife. In terms of standing, she belonged to the founding generation. Even the Hokage had to treat her with respect. Kei sat across from her, respectful and quiet, watching her movements calmly. For a long time, neither of them spoke. I still remember when you first came here. You were such a small child, and in the blink of an eye, you've grown into an adult. Mito sighed softly, as if recalling the boy Kei had once been. Back then, Tobirama brought you here. I had never seen him praise someone so highly. After that, I knew you would be extraordinary in the future, and that has proven true. In just a few years, you've achieved great things. In terms of contribution to the village alone, you are not inferior to Tobirama. She spoke as if reminiscing, not immediately going to the main topic. It was only because Lord Tobirama valued me. Kei shook his head, expression calm. I do not have any extraordinary talent. I only did what I could to help Lord Tobirama. You're still so humble. Mito smiled, then her gaze sharpened slightly. It's been quite lively outside lately. What do you think about it? She finally arrived at the point. A farce. Kei shook his head. My teacher has gone missing, yet powerful enemies remain outside. If this continues, the village will suffer significant losses. In my opinion, it's time for this farce to end. Yes. It is indeed time for it to end. Mito nodded gently, unsurprised. Then she sighed. Continuing like this won't be good for anyone. Kei. Her eyes settled on him. Do you want to become Hokage? Kei nodded, then shook his head. Becoming Hokage is the wish of my teacher, and of many others. Although my teacher is missing now, I still want to fulfill that dream for him. Using my power to protect this village that he and Lord Tobirama loved. As he spoke, his heart was perfectly calm. Even though Hiruzen's disappearance was his own doing, he felt no guilt. Judging by Konoha's future, replacing Hiruzen as the third Hokage would only mean Konoha would be better off. If that was the case, what was there to feel guilty about? It's good that you have confidence. Mito smiled, having watched Kei carefully the entire time. She would never trust someone easily. But she trusted the Kei sitting in front of her. Kei was different from the other Uchiha. His chakra carried warmth and peace, not the cold, dark aura she sensed from most Uchiha shinobi. For Mito, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, whose perception far surpassed ordinary people, that difference was unmistakable. A person's words could lie, but their chakra could not. In Mito's judgment, Kei was undoubtedly a good person. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 77, Something More Important. 1,308 words. Chapter 77, Something More Important. In Mito's eyes, Kei was a good person. That was true whether judged by his past actions or by the feeling his chakra gave off. So she naturally chose to believe him. If your teacher were still here, he would naturally be the candidate everyone was satisfied with. But since he has gone missing, then only you can succeed him. Mito spoke softly. As for that child Danzo, he is not a suitable candidate for the position of Hokage. As Tobirama's student, she had naturally met Danzo before. In her view, he did resemble Tobirama on the surface, but the aura of his chakra was soaked in darkness and coldness. Even though it was hidden deeply, it still could not be concealed from the Mito before him. If someone like that became Konoha's Hokage, it would definitely not be a good thing. Actually, if possible, Tsunade would also be a very good candidate. Kei spoke softly. She has a very kind heart. Although she has some minor flaws, she also has the capacity and ability to become Hokage. Given enough time, her future is destined to be brilliant. Tsunade is still too young. Mito shook her head. And with Tobirama's way of thinking, it is also not very appropriate for someone from the Senju clan to inherit the Hokage position again. Neither Hashirama nor Tobirama wanted Konoha to be confined to a single clan. So even though they themselves were leaders of the Senju clan, they also did not want the Hokage position to remain in Senju hands for too long. That was why Tobirama deliberately did not choose a student from within the Senju clan and instead focused on training Hiruzen. The first and second Hokage of Konoha were both from the Senju clan. If the third Hokage were also from the Senju clan, then would Konoha belong to everyone, or would it become the private property of the Senju clan? Tobirama clearly did not want that, so he intentionally chose to reduce the Senju clan's prominence. Whether it was establishing the Ninja Academy or choosing Hiruzen as Hokage, the purpose was the same. On this point, Hiruzen had not betrayed Tobirama's wishes either. No matter how he later governed Konoha, and no matter whether he used the convenience of being Hokage to seek benefits for the Sarutobi clan, one fact remained unchanged. He did not choose to train someone from the Sarutobi clan as Hokage, and instead chose Minato Namikaze as the fourth Hokage. Not only Minato, but among the three disciples he took, aside from Tsunade, the other two were commoners. That alone was enough to show his inclination. He might have had limited ability and grown somewhat muddled, but he never deviated from carrying out his teacher's ideals. From that perspective, Tobirama had not chosen the wrong person. It is indeed inappropriate for the Senju clan to produce Hokage in succession, but the future will be different after all. Kei said, if this generation does not work, and if there are no suitable candidates in the next generation, then letting her try would not be a bad thing. This was a promise. Once he stepped down, the next generation's Hokage could still come from the Senju clan. Mito smiled. There is no need to force it. She could sense Kei's meaning and knew he was not being perfunctory, but sincere. Even so, she still shook her head in the end. Konoha belongs to everyone. It is not a good thing for the Senju clan to keep holding the Hokage position. Besides, with Tsunade's personality, if she became Hokage, I am afraid she would gamble away the entire Konoha. Thinking of Tsunade's temperament, she could not help but laugh. I understand what you mean. Kei spoke softly. No matter what, I will remember the friendship of the Senju clan. That is enough. Mito nodded and did not continue the topic. The Uchiha clan head has been very high profile lately. After moving away from the subject of Hokage, she asked again, "What are your thoughts?" "It does not matter much." Kei shook his head and spoke softly. "The people of the Uchiha clan will naturally be handled in the Uchiha way. As long as you know what you are doing." Mito nodded, not too concerned. She had lived through the era of Hashirama and Madara. The wars of that age were far more dangerous than the present one. Compared to that, Konoha's current internal situation was no more than children playing house. Kei also felt his heart settle. With the support of Mito, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, he was effectively standing in an invincible position. In the current Konoha, Mito was nearly invincible. This world still depended on strength in the end. Mito's support did not merely represent the entire Senju clan. It also represented the support of Konoha's strongest person. Her status and strength were both beyond question. Overall, the atmosphere of their conversation was quite pleasant. That was thanks to the deep foundation laid in the past. In a true sense, Kei had been watched over by Mito as he grew up. He and Tsunade were childhood friends. He had been appreciated by Tobirama since childhood, and he shared a deep bond with the Senju clan. Others did not have such conditions. Nawaki should be 2 years old already. Sitting there, Kei suddenly spoke. "If possible, may I take him as my disciple?" This was a gesture of reciprocity. Since Mito had chosen to support him in becoming Hokage, he naturally had to give something in return. What he said earlier about supporting Tsunade to become Hokage in the future was only words. Compared to the present, it was still intangible. But taking Nawaki as his disciple was a tangible action in the present. Mito gave Kei a deep look and naturally understood his intention. She thought for a moment, then nodded. "That is not bad. However, Nawaki is a bit of a troublemaker, so I will have to trouble you to put in more effort." "It is no trouble." Kei smiled. "Most children at that age are like that. They only need proper guidance." Senju Nawaki was Hashirama's grandson and Tsunade's younger brother. Like Tsunade, he was of pure Senju blood and the future successor of the Senju clan. By taking this child as his disciple, Kei was also showing his sincerity in maintaining a friendly relationship with the Senju clan. Mito felt this, so she did not refuse. After all, even if she herself did not care, the Senju clan ultimately needed some guarantees. At a time when Hashirama and Tobirama had passed away one after another, and the younger generation like Tsunade and Nawaki had not yet grown up, the Senju clan needed such guarantees to ensure its survival. After all, she herself was already quite old and might pass away before long. When Kei left the Senju clan compound, his expression was still calm, but his mood seemed a little lighter. He did not leave alone. He brought Tsunade with him. "What are we doing next?" Looking at Kei in front of her, Tsunade asked curiously, "Are we going to succeed as Hokage?" In her view, with Grandma Mito's support, Kei becoming Hokage was no longer a problem. Should he not just succeed directly now? There is no rush for that right now. Kei patted Tsunade's head and smiled. "For now, we have something more important to do." Something more important? Tsunade could not help but grow curious. At a time like this, what could be more important than succeeding as Hokage? If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 78, Violent Seizure of Power. 1193 words. Chapter 78, Violent Seizure of Power. At this moment, there was naturally something more important than succeeding as Hokage. The essence of becoming Hokage was inheriting control over Konoha, a powerful force. As for the title of Hokage itself, in Kei's eyes, it was not worth much. He had never cared about empty titles. What he cared about were tangible things. Some power could be obtained through strategy and by winning people over through relationships, but other things were different. Those required absolute, concrete strength. Inside the ancestral grounds of the Uchiha clan, the atmosphere had already become extremely tense. The current Uchiha clan head was named Uchiha Kawaki. Inside the shrine, he sat alone with several clan elders. Kei is here. One of the clan elders spoke up. What should we do? What is he here for? Kawaki spoke coldly. Has he come to support me in becoming Hokage? From the looks of it, probably not. In that case, why should we bother with him? He said coldly, for all these years, he has been close to the Senju clan. Does he still consider himself a member of the Uchiha clan? Regardless, he is the head of the medical department and a high-ranking official of Konoha. Now that he has returned, should we not at least meet him? The elder in front of him hesitated. Fine. Kawaki nodded. Then let him wait outside. I will go see him personally. After saying that, he stood and walked out. Inside the Uchiha clan's reception hall, Kei stood alone. He sat there quietly, waiting for Kawaki to arrive. A moment later, the Uchiha clan head entered and sat opposite him. Kei. Kawaki looked at Kei. I do not have time for idle talk. State your purpose plainly. If you came to support me in becoming Hokage, then stay. If not, leave. His eyes changed. A pair of crimson Sharingan stared directly at Kei, pressing down on him with immense pressure. So direct. Kei smiled. In that case, I will also speak plainly. Senior Kawaki, it seems you have held the position of clan head for a little too long. I think it is time for a change. What do you think? What did you say? Hearing Kei's words, Kawaki was stunned for a moment. At first, he thought Kei had come because of the Hokage election, and he had prepared himself accordingly. As it turned out, the other party had actually come for his position as clan head. The moment he realized that, anger surged across his face. Do you know what you are saying? Why shouldn't I? Kei spoke calmly. The Uchiha clan respects strength. Since you are old, clan head, it is only right that you step down and make way for someone more capable. Besides, even in terms of bloodline, you should not be the Uchiha clan head. With a calm expression, he looked at Kawaki. At some point, a pair of Sharingan had also appeared in his eyes, carrying a massive sense of oppression. Is that not so? The scene froze for a moment. The Uchiha clan had always followed the tradition of the strong seizing power. No, to be more precise, almost all ninja clans followed this rule. Aside from clans like the Hyuga, who used the caged bird seal and forcibly separated the main house from the branch house, most ninja clans respected strength above all else. The strongest becoming clan head was the most basic rule. Furthermore, in terms of bloodline, the Kawaki before him was not from the so-called direct line of the clan head. The true direct line of the clan head had long since been severed after Madara left. After all, Madara had no children, and his only younger brother had died long ago. The current clan head was merely a candidate re-elected by the clan after Madara's departure. His influence and strength both had limits. You want to challenge my position as clan head? Kawaki spoke coldly. Kei, do you know what you are doing? Kei's expression remained calm as he casually waved a hand. In an instant, several elderly men stepped out from within the clan. Please act according to the rules, clan head. They looked at Kawaki and spoke indifferently. In our view, the clan head is now old and frail. It is time for a new clan head. If the Uchiha clan wants to welcome a new life, then it should be led by a young clan head. You. Looking at those men, the anger on Kawaki's face grew even more intense. The elders before him were no ordinary people. They were the clan elders of the Uchiha. Within the Uchiha clan, these elders not only possessed great seniority, but also held considerable influence and power. Together, even he, the clan head, could not ignore them. And now, they had united behind Kei. This was a coup. At that moment, Kawaki suddenly understood. Why? Confusion appeared on his face. He could not understand why these people had betrayed him. Clearly, he had not done anything wrong. Before this, these people had been his loyal supporters. Why had they defected the moment Kei arrived? The answer was actually very simple. The Uchiha elders chose to support him not because of how powerful he was, but simply because he was the Uchiha clan head, and because they hoped an Uchiha Hokage would emerge. They wanted an Uchiha Hokage to appear in Konoha. As for who that person specifically was, they did not care. Kei was also from the Uchiha clan, and from the current situation, his chances were clearly much better than Kawaki's. Combined with the influence of Kagami's branch, that ultimately led to this result. Fine. Seeing that he had been pushed into a corner, Kawaki spoke coldly, in that case, come. I would like to see how much strength you still have after spending all these years treating the sick and saving people. Even now, he still had absolute confidence in himself. Whatever else might be said, his strength was real. He was the Uchiha clan head and enjoyed the resources of the entire clan. Now in his prime, his strength had long since reached its peak. As for the Kei opposite him, he was only 15 years old. At that age, he was still just a child in Kawaki's eyes. What was there to fear? He turned and walked toward the training ground, his expression rigid as he moved forward. Kei's face remained calm as he followed behind. By the time they arrived, the area was already packed. One after another, Uchiha ninja had gathered to watch this fight. This had naturally been arranged in advance. Since Kei wanted to seize the position of Uchiha clan head, he had to defeat Kawaki fairly and squarely in front of all the Uchiha ninja. Only then would his ascension as Uchiha clan head be considered legitimate. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 79, Succeeding as Clan Leader. 1717 words. Chapter 79, Succeeding as Clan Leader. Two pairs of crimson Sharingan stared into each other. They locked gazes as chakra flowed continuously between them. This was a method of combat unique to the Uchiha clan. On the surface, they seemed motionless, but in truth, they were already engaged in an invisible clash through the power of their dojutsu. In this duel, Kawaki had originally been full of confidence. Since he had defeated numerous opponents to become the leader of the Uchiha clan, his strength was naturally not weak. Within the entire Uchiha clan, his dojutsu power ranked among the strongest. Even if Kagami were standing here, he would not surpass him in pure dojutsu power. However, he quickly realized something was wrong. A massive sense of oppression surged in from all directions. The light before his eyes gradually vanished, and the shadows split into broken fragments. The entire world seemed to change. What is going on? When he raised his head, the person before him was no longer Kei. Instead, it was a middle-aged man who looked very similar to Kei, standing there and grinning at him. In the next moment, the man's skin began to peel away. Flesh separated from bone, and he turned into a skeleton. Not far away, the Uchiha ninja who had been standing around also became corpses one after another, collapsing across the ground. How can this be? Seeing that scene, Kawaki instinctively stepped back, unable to believe his eyes. A strange feeling of suspension rose in him. He instinctively looked down at his feet, only to realize that at some point, the ground beneath him had turned into an abyss. Huff! Rapid breathing echoed through the area. Kawaki stood frozen in place, his entire body drenched in cold sweat. At that moment, as his awareness returned, everything around him returned to normal. Kei stood across from him, smiling faintly. Finally awake? How is this possible? Kawaki finally understood what had happened just now. He looked at Kei across from him, his face full of shock. Your dojutsu power, it is actually. It was completely different from what he had imagined. The dojutsu power Kei had displayed was terrifyingly strong. That abyss-like dojutsu power far surpassed his own. Even Kagami could not hope to reach that level. Without a doubt, this was an extremely frightening thing. The Uchiha were a clan that pursued strength. They flaunted their power without reservation and never hid their strengths. Kawaki had never seen someone like Kei before, someone who possessed such overwhelming dojutsu power and yet had never revealed it in the past. The other's behavior was completely unlike that of a normal Uchiha. "Do you want to continue?" Kei spoke softly. "You should understand that if this were a battlefield, you would have lost your life just now. A duel of dojutsu power was far too dangerous." Given Kawaki's condition just now, Kei could have pierced his chest at any time if he wanted. The only reason he had not done so was to leave the other party some face and let him concede on his own. "Do not get cocky." Hearing Kei's words, anger surged onto Kawaki's face. "I have not lost yet. The outcome of dojutsu power is not absolute. I will not underestimate my opponent again this time." Still refusing to concede? Kei's expression remained calm, and he was not surprised by this at all. "Then let us continue." "Good. I am in a bit of a hurry anyway." Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. A massive fireball roared forward, crashing toward Kei, but missed at the critical moment. A figure instantly appeared in front of Kawaki and began forming hand seals as well. Fire release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. It was clearly the same technique, but in Kei's hands, it was several times larger, and its power swelled instantly. It was only a common ninjutsu, yet when Kei used it, it was not inferior to many high-level techniques. Not good. A sense of danger flashed through Kawaki's mind, and he immediately retreated. His Sharingan widened, trying to capture Kei's movements as clearly as possible. But Kei's speed was even faster than he had imagined. The moment Kawaki narrowly dodged the ninjutsu, Kei had already rushed in front of him and unleashed a direct kick. Front Lotus. The terrifying blow crashed down and sent Kawaki flying. The horrific force blasted a huge crater into the ground and made Kawaki cough up a large mouthful of blood. A kunai slowly moved forward and pressed against Kawaki's throat, only an inch away from piercing through. At that moment, everyone around them fell silent. Not only dojutsu power, but even ninjutsu and taijutsu are flawless? In a distant corner, Uchiha Setsuna watched Kei's performance in the duel and could not hide the astonishment on his face. Like Uzumaki Mito, he had seen much in his life, having followed Uchiha Madara in the past and fought in many battles against the Senju clan. Even so, Kei's performance still left him amazed. For an ordinary ninja, even having a slight advantage in one area was already rare. To excel in one field required extraordinary talent and effort. But Kei's performance was exceptional. From what he had shown just now, his dojutsu power, taijutsu, and ninjutsu were all impeccable. As for genjutsu, although he had not demonstrated it directly, as a member of the Uchiha clan with a 3-tomo Sharingan, he was naturally at the highest tier in genjutsu as well. And if one also counted his status as Konoha's top medical ninja. A perfect ninja. That thought flashed through Setsuna's mind. At this moment, Kei reminded him of someone. The Azura of the ninja world, Uchiha Madara. Back then, Madara had also been this brilliant, suppressing powerful experts from every side at a young age and becoming the leader of the Uchiha clan. How similar the current Kei was to the Madara of that time. Only his personality is completely different. Setsuna observed quietly, then shook his head. Their strength might be similar, but their personalities were entirely different. Madara had been known as the Azura of the ninja world. His temperament was cold and direct. Even within the Uchiha clan, aside from his younger brother, very few people in those days could exchange more than a few words with him. If Madara had faced the current situation, the Uchiha clan would probably have become a river of blood. Kawaki would not even have had the chance to speak. As for Kei, his style was completely different. I am truly looking forward to it. Thinking of this, Setsuna could not help but feel anticipation. The Senju and Uchiha were hereditary rivals, and the two clans had fought each other for generations without a clear victor. Only after the first Hokage defeated the Uchiha did the Senju clan gain the upper hand. Now, in the current generation, Hashirama and Tobirama had both passed away, while the Uchiha clan had produced a monster comparable to Madara. Does this mean the Uchiha clan is about to rise? Do you still want to continue? Kei's voice slowly rang out over the duel field. He looked at Kawaki before him and spoke softly, his Sharingan quietly fixed on the other man. That overwhelming dojutsu power, even without any extra movement, gave off a huge sense of pressure just by staring at him. Meeting Kei's gaze, Kawaki opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something more. But in the end, he only sighed and lowered his head. I lost. The position of leader of the Uchiha clan is yours. When he spoke those words, his face burned with humiliation. Just earlier, he had arrogantly believed Kei was no match for him. But in only a few exchanges, he had been pinned to the ground without even room to struggle. The gap in strength between them was so obvious that even a child could see it. After admitting defeat, he lowered his head, expecting mockery for his earlier arrogance. But the ridicule he expected never came. Kei merely looked at him, smiled, and reached out a hand to help him up. Then in the future, I will have to trouble Lord Kawaim for guidance. He spoke softly, his attitude much warmer than before, giving off the feeling of a gentle spring breeze. A single defeat in a spar is nothing. He continued softly, Lord Kawaim has been busy with clan affairs and has naturally had less time for personal training. There is no need to feel guilty over it. On the contrary, I am still young and have much to learn regarding clan affairs, so I will need your assistance. His words were gentle and completely free of a victor's arrogance, as peaceful as ever. To him, this was only natural. He had already won, and the other party had already conceded and admitted defeat. At that point, saying a few pleasant words to ease things was no big deal. Now that matters had reached this stage, you did not mind giving the other side some face. You. Kawaki looked up, startled as he stared at Kei. In the end, he silently reached out his hand and accepted the goodwill. No matter what, the other party was willing to leave him a way out and preserve the last bit of his dignity. Since that was the case, he accepted it. Now then, everyone. After helping Kawaki up, Kei turned and stepped forward. He walked to the front and met the gazes of the surrounding Uchiha clansmen. At that moment, he no longer concealed his aura, and his massive chakra spread outward directly. An invisible field expanded. Kei's originally calm gaze seemed to sharpen, and a powerful presence emerged, suppressing the entire area. From this day onward, I am the clan leader. His voice was light, and his face remained calm, but the terrifying aura around him spread in all directions. That overwhelming chakra made everyone who sensed it feel a chill of dread. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 80, I Am the Hokage. 1822 words. Chapter 80, I Am the Hokage. With chakra empowering his voice, Yu's calm words echoed in every direction. Hearing him, the surrounding Uchiha clansmen fell silent for a brief moment. Then a thunderous wave of cheers erupted. Kei! Long live the clan head! Shout after shout rang out without end. The young members of the Uchiha clan looked toward the figure standing on the high platform, their faces filled with fervent excitement. In their eyes, only that one person remained. As for Kawaki, he had long since been pushed to the back of their minds. Even the few clan members who had originally supported Kawaki could only sigh at the sight before them, and in the end, they chose to support this new leader of the Uchiha clan. Regardless of the past, now that Kei had become the clan head, he represented the entire Uchiha clan. Whether for the clan's collective interests or for personal reasons, they had no choice but to support Kei. This was their only path. On this day, under the witness and support of many clansmen, Kei officially became the leader of the Uchiha clan. The former clan head, Kawaki, was appointed as a clan elder and tasked with assisting Kei in handling daily clan affairs. And this also meant that one of the major candidates in the Hokage election had effectively withdrawn. Most people were pleased by this news. Compared to Kawaki's earlier performance, Kei's conduct inspired far more trust. Most people were willing to believe that if Kei came to power, Konoha would remain stable and avoid turmoil. Of course, there were naturally people who were unhappy with this outcome. For it to end up like this. Inside the Shimura clan compound, Danzo quickly received the news. Even now, he found it difficult to believe. He actually became the leader of the Uchiha clan so easily? His mind was still in a daze. Just earlier, he had been plotting how to use the Uchiha clan to clash with Kei and make both sides exhaust each other. Yet in the blink of an eye, Kei's had defeated Kawaki and become the new leader of the Uchiha clan. The two forces Danzo had feared the most had now merged directly into one. How was he supposed to fight that? A sense of despair rose in Danzo's heart. His strength and prestige had already been inferior to Kei's. Now that Kei had become the head of the Uchiha clan and inherited their influence, his position had only grown stronger. What did Danzo even have left to compete with him? Not long after, more news arrived. Every piece of it was bad news for Danzo. Word came from the Senju clan that Kei would take Nawaki Senju, the grandson of the first Hokage and Tsunade's younger brother, as his disciple. This undoubtedly represented an even closer tie between the Senju clan and Kei, and it also signaled the Senju clan's personal endorsement of him. After that news spread, the Ino-Shika-Cho clans, who had still been hesitating, made their position clear without any delay and publicly declared that they would support Kei in the Hokage election. As for the clans represented by people like Koharu and Hamura, there was no need to mention them. They had supported him from the very beginning. Even the Sarutobi clan, which had always maintained a decent relationship with Danzo and was the clan of his friend Hiruzen, publicly declared their support for Kei. The reason was obvious. Hiruzen was indeed Danzo's friend, but at the same time, he was Kei's teacher. One side was a friend of the clan head. The other was the clan head's only true successor. It was obvious which relationship was closer. Even before this, the Sarutobi clan had already leaned more toward Kei. Now that Kei held an even greater advantage, their choice became even more natural. Looking across Konoha's strongest clans, the Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, and Sarutobi, three had now openly expressed support for Kei. Only the Hyuga clan had yet to make a clear statement. Danzo looked around and realized that aside from the Shimura clan, he could not find a single reliable supporter. Even if one ignored the influence of the ninja clans and looked only at civilian ninja and small clan ninja, Kei still held the advantage. Compared to him, Danzo had no chance at all. Teacher. Standing there, Danzo could not help but smile bitterly as countless thoughts passed through his mind. Was this also something you foresaw long ago? Fine. Now that things had developed to this point, he unexpectedly felt a sense of relief instead. The gap between the two sides was so enormous that he no longer even had the desire to struggle. He only had one thought left now. He wanted to wait until the day of the Hokage vote. He wanted to see exactly how many votes Kei would receive in the end. Time passed slowly. Soon, the day of the Jonin vote arrived. On that day, several veteran Jonin with sufficient seniority served as vote counters, and Uzumaki Mito personally presided over the event, appearing in person at the venue. Let us begin. She checked the time and announced the start of the voting. One by one, the Jonin stepped forward with solemn expressions and cast their ballots. Signed voting slips were placed into the boxes one after another. In the blink of an eye, Kei vote count began to rise at a visible speed, surpassing 100 votes in a short time. On the other side, Danzo's vote count remained in the single digits and had not increased for a long while. Soon, the final results were announced. Kei received more than 200 votes. Danzo, meanwhile, received only 9. The moment he saw the result, Danzo's face turned livid. 9 votes. The Shimura clan was not a small clan, and there were also several ninja clans allied with them for many years. The number of Jonin from those groups alone exceeded 9. 9 votes meant that even within his own camp, some people had chosen to vote for Kei instead of him. That result hurt him even more than watching Kei win. But the results were already out, and in front of so many people, no matter what he felt, he could only accept it. It seems the result is clear. At the front, Uzumaki Mito looked toward the ballot boxes and smiled. In the next moment, under the surprised gazes of everyone present, she slowly stood up and, in full view of the crowd, cast her own vote into Kei's ballot box. With the crisp sound of the ballot falling, everyone's minds blanked for an instant. At that moment, they all understood that Kei's position as Hokage was now completely unshakable. Let us welcome our third Hokage. Uzumaki Mito personally stepped forward and draped the Haori that symbolized the Hokage over Kei's shoulders. From this moment onward, Konoha officially entered a brand new chapter. Uchiha Kei formally became Konoha's third Hokage. It is done, it really happened. Watching this scene, the Uchiha ninja could not help but feel exhilarated. Even Setsuna, the representative of the radicals, was momentarily dazed. This is our Uchiha clan's Hokage. He looked at Kei wearing the Hokage Haori, his heart pounding with excitement. Not far away, Kagami, Hamura, and the others were all smiling, pleased to see this outcome. But for Kei, becoming Hokage was only the beginning. The current Konoha was far from stable. Externally, the ninja world had just gone through a great ninja war and was still far from peaceful. Although most national conflicts were nearing an end, some fighting still remained, and another large-scale war could break out at any time. Internally, Konoha was also drained by the war. The major ninja clans had suffered heavy losses and urgently needed time to recover. Taking power under such circumstances meant Kei had many things to deal with. The daimyo has sent a letter congratulating you on becoming Hokage, Kei. Inside the Hokage office, Kagami walked in and reported to Kei. In addition, the construction funds the daimyo promised earlier have now arrived. I see. Kei nodded. That is quite timely. Summon the representatives of the major ninja clans for me. He looked at Kagami and spoke. Kagami nodded and quickly left. In a short while, representatives from the major ninja clans gathered. In this war, every ninja clan suffered heavy losses. Kei looked at the people around him before speaking. I understand your hardships, so I plan to set aside a portion of the funds issued by the daimyo this time and distribute it to you clan heads. You may arrange this sum however you see fit. The village will not interfere. The moment they heard this, everyone present showed clear joy. In this great ninja war, the major ninja clans had all suffered serious losses, and many clansmen had died in battle. After all, this was not the future. The Ninja Academy had only existed for a few years, and civilian ninja had not yet become the main force of the village. At present, Konoha's core fighting strength still came from the major ninja clans. This also meant that in this great ninja war, the ones who suffered the heaviest casualties were precisely those same clans. Of course, the village did provide pensions for ninja who died in battle. But that did not mean the clans suffered no losses. Many of the fallen ninja had been raised and trained using the resources of the entire clan. Once they died, not only were those investments effectively lost, but the clan also had to continue caring for their wives and children. Only by doing so could the clan preserve its cohesion. As for these hidden losses, the major ninja clans had originally been prepared to bear them. After all, the ninja profession earned commissions by risking one's life. Dying on the battlefield was simply something they had to accept. Compared to the older era of the warring clans, at least there were pensions now. What they had not expected was that this newly appointed third Hokage would be so considerate of their situation and provide additional compensation to the ninja clans. That was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise. Of course, Kei's decision to give subsidies was not purely out of kindness. It was simply because he wanted the ninja clans under his command to recover their strength as quickly as possible. At this stage, when civilian ninja had not yet fully risen to replace the ninja clans, maintaining the strength of the clans was still necessary if he wanted Konoha to function properly. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 81, Konoha's version of compulsory education. 1,147 words. Chapter 81, Konoha's version of compulsory education. After the generous distribution of funds, the representatives of the major ninja clans clearly became much more agreeable. The smiles on their faces grew noticeably brighter. That reaction was only natural. After all, who would not like a leader who handed them money? The second matter. Kay looked at the clan representatives in front of him. This great war exposed quite a few problems. Many shinobi in the village have weak foundations. The techniques they master vary wildly, to the point that it becomes impossible to coordinate properly on the battlefield. If this problem is not solved, its long-term impact on the village will be far too great. Therefore, starting this year, regardless of whether someone comes from a ninja clan or not, as long as they are the appropriate age, they must be sent to the Ninja Academy for unified learning. He looked around the room. What do you all think? The second Hokage created the Ninja Academy to train civilian shinobi while also strengthening the village's cohesion. But judging by the results, even though certain goals had been achieved, the effect was still not significant enough. The core reason was simple. The major ninja clans did not send their school-aged children to the academy. They did not feel the need. The great clans already controlled their own training. They raised their children themselves, taught them, and passed down their secret techniques, turning them into qualified shinobi. They had done this for countless years, long before Konoha even existed. Since they had their own training systems, there was no reason to send their heirs to the academy. After all, what the academy taught was too basic. The techniques offered were limited, and for clans with even a little accumulated heritage, sending their children there felt like wasting time. But that choice created many problems. The first problem was teaching quality. The ninja clans that survived from the Warring States period all had something to rely on. Either they possessed a Kekkei Genkai, or they held inherited secret techniques. The former included the Uchiha and Hyuga. The latter was represented by the Ino Shikacho. Large clans had deep foundations. They had ample resources and enough techniques for their members to learn. The shinobi they trained had few weaknesses and also mastered their clan's signature abilities, making them clearly a tier above ordinary shinobi. But there were also many smaller clans. Some had only a handful of shallow secret techniques, yet they still clung to them stubbornly. Shinobi trained that way often had weak foundations and severe shortcomings outside the few techniques they specialized in. In normal times, those flaws were not always obvious. On a battlefield, they became fatal. During the war, Konoha had exposed many such problems. The second problem was leadership and cohesion. Whether shinobi were trained by their clan or by the Ninja Academy was ultimately a question of who held the leash. If a shinobi was trained entirely by their own clan, would they identify more with Konoha, or with their clan first? People like Itachi, who ate the Uchiha's food and still chose to wipe out the clan, were rare. Most people who grew up under their clan's protection would naturally lean toward the clan. So what Kei wanted to do now was strip the ninja clans of their right to educate the next generation and, as much as possible, shape future shinobi into people loyal to Konoha itself. He gave it a pleasant name. Compulsory education. Compulsory education? Hearing Kei's words, the representatives were dumbfounded. They looked at each other, half convinced they had misheard him. Hokage-sama, what you said just now, is that truly your intention? The head of the Nara clan spoke up, wanting a clear confirmation. Naturally, it is true. Kei nodded. From today onward, all school-aged children in the village must be sent to the Ninja Academy for 6 years of basic shinobi education. Those who pass this basic education may be granted the rank of genin. Regardless of background, regardless of clan, all children of the right age would be required to attend? The room could not help but gasp. What a massive move! Tobarama's original intention in creating the Ninja Academy was to train civilian shinobi. But to be honest, after a few years, the results had been only moderate. Not useless, but far from transformative. The limitation was numbers. Because of teaching costs, the academy's intake had never been large. There were restrictions on status, and students also needed to meet a talent threshold. It was meant to train civilian shinobi, but the structure resembled elite education. That did not change even in later years. Even decades later, after civilian shinobi increased dramatically, ninja clan shinobi still made up the majority. The reason was simple. Training shinobi consumed resources. Even setting aside explosive tags in kunai, all the daily materials needed for teaching required constant investment. The burden was so large that even with tuition, the academy could not sustain itself. Konoha had to continuously provide funding. And now Kei wanted compulsory education? The first thought in everyone's mind was the same. Where would the money come from? To put it bluntly, do you truly intend to include all the children of Konoha? Koharu frowned and spoke tactfully. The village's finances may not be able to support this. It was more than simply not being able to support it. Once this plan was implemented, with Konoha's current financial situation, it likely would not last long. Even though Konoha was not enormous, it still held hundreds of thousands of people. Among them, the number of children suitable for enrollment, even by rough calculation, would be at least 10 or 20,000. With that many enrolled, setting aside whether there were enough teachers, the yearly consumption alone would be a terrifying figure. There is no need to worry about funding for the time being. Kei smiled at Koharu's concern. The funds the daimyo sent this time, aside from the portion allocated to the ninja clans, will all be invested into the ninja academy for expanding the campus and recruiting teachers. Even so, it can only support it for a period at most. Koharu hesitated, still unconvinced. That is the other matter I intended to mention. Kei looked at everyone present and spoke softly. The village's income is too monotonous. Relying entirely on the daimyo's support in mission commissions is far too passive. Therefore, starting today, a Department of Commerce and Transportation will be established. Department of Commerce and Transportation? Hearing Kei's words, everyone present could not help but exchange uneasy glances. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 82, Monopoly. 1055 words. Chapter 82, Monopoly. When Kei said he wanted to increase the village's income and diversify it, everyone present agreed. After all, if the village's finances became abundant, it would benefit them as well. The question was how. What were the Department of Commerce and the Department of Transportation for? How would they make money? The so-called Department of Commerce will be responsible for foreign trade and for managing village-run enterprises. Kei explained. Foreign trade? Village-run enterprises? Foreign trade is easy enough to understand, but what are village-run enterprises? Koharu looked hesitant. Are we going to do business? Why not? Kei spoke calmly. The number of residents in the village is not small, and the supplies needed each day are not few. This is a ready-made market. If we start village-run enterprises, then as long as the quality is not too bad, we can produce results immediately. To speak honestly, Konoha's consumption potential was considerable. Even though the village only had hundreds of thousands of residents, something like an ordinary city from his previous life, these were high-end people with high spending power. Anyone who could live in Konoha was either part of a ninja clan or connected to shinobi families. And in this era, shinobi were unquestionably the high-end class. Even an ordinary genin earned solid compensation through daily missions. Compared to common people, they were wealthy. Serving this group alone was enough to support a large number of businesses. What was even better was that Kei was the Hokage. He represented Konoha's authority and legitimacy. With a single order from him, no one inside the village could compete against him. In the end, when authority personally enters the market, it becomes a monopoly. And a monopoly can only make money. Of course, Kei did not intend to go too far. To avoid turning everything into chaos, for now he only planned to take back a few of the highest profit industries, the ones with huge margins and low technical requirements. Pass down my order. He spoke at once. Establish Konoha Tobacco, Konoha Entertainment, and Konoha Grain Group. From today onward, any tobacco sold by enterprises other than Konoha Tobacco is illegal. Once discovered, it will be confiscated according to the law. What? You could do business like that? Everyone present was stunned. On one hand, he opened a tobacco enterprise and sold tobacco himself. On the other hand, he declared all other tobacco products illegal and banned them from Konoha's market. Business could actually be run this way? Does sound like it can make money. Torafu and Hamura exchanged a look, both feeling that this truly could be profitable. The shinobi profession carried tremendous pressure. Because of constant missions, many shinobi had their own methods of relieving stress. Tobacco was certainly one of them. Among Konoha shinobi, there were plenty who smoked. Later, Asuma Sarutobi, whose head would be worth 30 million ryo, was a heavy smoker. If all the money those people spent could be pulled into Konoha's official pocket, the future outlook would be excellent. What about Konoha Entertainment? Koharu asked again. What is that for? The enterprise is called Konoha Entertainment, so naturally it is for entertainment venues. Kei spoke as if it was obvious. From today onward, all privately run casinos and pleasure quarters, except those opened by Konoha authorities, are illegal. As expected, it was the same method. Everyone understood instantly and stopped questioning him. If he played it like this, then it would be unreasonable not to make money. Tobacco and gambling were both classic high-profit, low-tech industries. An official monopoly over them would not cause real harm. Instead, it could even standardize the entire market. As for Konoha Grain Group, that was not a monopoly. It was for acquiring and stockpiling grain. This was a move Kei made almost on instinct, ensuring food security. Senior Koharu. After giving those orders, Kei looked at Koharu. You will take charge of the newly established Department of Commerce. Danzo will be your deputy. Establishing a Department of Commerce and village-run enterprises would inevitably affect many people's interests. But that did not matter. The combination of Koharu and Danzo was enough to handle anything. If someone did not know what was good for them, Danzo could teach them what cruelty meant. Send a letter to the daimyo. Kei continued. There are bandits causing trouble throughout the Land of Fire. We in Konoha are willing to help the daimyo clear them out for free, to protect the security of the Land of Fire's territory. For free? Torafu frowned, confused. Even though the Great Ninja War had eased, the internal situation of the nations was far from peaceful. Public security in this era was poor. Bandits frequently caused trouble. This had always been part of the shinobi business. Because bandits were everywhere, merchants and nobles hired shinobi for handsome rewards. Sometimes shinobi were hired to clear out bandits, but often after one group was eliminated, new bandits would appear later. And now Kei wanted to clear bandits for free? For Konoha, that sounded like a losing proposition. Everyone tried to persuade him, but seeing how firm he was, they did not press further. In the end, Kei handed the matter to the Uchiha clan. That alone was enough to silence objections. Since they did not have to expend their own effort, there was no reason to argue. After that day, changes appeared rapidly within Konoha. Residents discovered that the casinos and pleasure quarters of all sizes along the streets had vanished, replaced by grand venues with a clear official presence. These casinos were all run by Konoha authorities, and anyone spending there enjoyed the village's guarantee that no one would dare default on debts. Meanwhile, in shops across the village, all the various tobacco brands disappeared as well, leaving only a few newly released Konoha brand cigarettes. The change made many people quietly curious. But for most, the impact was not large. Cigarettes had not vanished. Only the brands had changed. And to ease concerns about acceptance, even the prices were reduced by a noticeable amount. TL, check out my newly released fanfic. Transmigrated into the legendary mechanic. Check out my Patreon for advanced chapters on all my fanfics. patreon.com/fanficlord03. Chapter 83, Ninja Academy Reform. 1596 words. Chapter 83, Ninja Academy Reform. The state monopoly on tobacco had little impact on everyday life, and as for the small matter of casinos being banned, it was even less worth mentioning. If anything, banning casinos and entertainment venues of all sizes might actually be a good thing. After all, places like that were always tied to the gray side of society. To make money, many venues even involved vile acts like human trafficking and kidnapping. Now that they were banned in one sweep, public security improved noticeably compared to before. That was also why there was almost no opposition. In just 1 month, the power of the state-run tobacco and casino industries began to show. It's actually this profitable? Looking at the financial reports handed to them, everyone present wore expressions of shock. Before they began, they had believed it would make money, but they had never imagined it would be this profitable. Now, with only 1 month of profit laid out, the room was stunned into silence. It was just a single month's report, yet the earnings were nearly half of Konoha's monthly mission revenue. In other words, it was as if the village had gained nearly half as much income again, out of thin air. That was an enormous figure. Most importantly, to obtain this income, they had not even needed to do much. They simply issued a few orders declaring other tobacco and casinos illegal. The venues and their workers were even acquired directly. It took almost no effort. Among everyone present, only Kei was not surprised. This was the entire Konoha apparatus entering the market, equivalent to a dominant military force doing business. If the military did business legally, how could it not make money? In the end, the title of legal ruler itself was profitable. Once a decree was issued, others obeyed, or they broke the law. With a monopoly position like that, as long as one had even a little intelligence, it was impossible not to profit. Even though Konoha was not the legal ruler of the Land of Fire, it was, in practice, the strongest warlord within it. From that position, making money was truly easy. In my name, send someone to deliver a letter to the daimyo of the Land of Fire. Kei spoke. Show him this financial report, and then tell him we are willing to give him 20% of the annual profits. 20%? Several people immediately felt displeased. Even if 20% was not a small number, this was Konoha's own revenue. Why should they share it with the daimyo? Have him cooperate with us in issuing decrees. Kei continued, calm and steady. From now on, throughout the entire Land of Fire, all tobacco and all casinos that are not sold or operated by Konoha will be illegal. Konoha Tobacco and Konoha Entertainment are limited to the village right now. The scale is still too small. Given our situation, we can directly take over the entire Land of Fire market. Take over the entire Land of Fire market? Just imagining it made everyone's breathing quicken. If monopolizing a market of only a few 100,000 inside Konoha could bring in profits like this, then what would happen if they legally monopolized the entire Land of Fire? By then, tobacco and casinos alone would generate income far beyond mission commissions. Thinking of that, the room grew restless with excitement. Will the daimyo agree? The Nara clan head spoke with hesitation. The daimyo isn't a fool. If he learns how much we're earning, will he really hand such a huge market to us? He will. Danzo spoke indifferently, a hint of ruthlessness in his tone. If he's unwilling, I'll make him willing. To shinobi, the daimyo was never someone they could not oppose. With the power Konoha controlled, as long as Konoha decided, the daimyo of the Land of Fire had no choice but to accept. Ordinary shinobi might hesitate to offend the daimyo. Danzo would not. With his nature, if the daimyo dared block his path, removing him would not be difficult. That is also why I am sending someone on this extra trip. Kei's voice remained soft. The daimyo will agree. By agreeing, he can at least receive a large sum every year. If he refuses, he won't get a single coin in the future. He has no choice. Ordinary people believe that as ruler of the Land of Fire, the daimyo held absolute authority over the entire country. Kei did not see it that way. In reality, the Land of Fire was a country in name, but within it were many nobles and lords. The daimyo was only a nominal ruler, and the territory he truly governed was limited. That was also why the daimyo had to rely on Konoha. To maintain his rule and suppress the lords on every side, he needed Konoha's endorsement and support. In that situation, the daimyo was not irreplaceable. He was simply the best partner to cooperate with. In this cooperation, the truly irreplaceable force was Konoha's military strength. Across the entire shinobi world, Konoha's power was not unique. There were other villages that could fight it. But within the Land of Fire, Konoha was the sole power. It nearly monopolized the Land of Fire's military might. Under those circumstances, Kei's choice to share benefits with the daimyo in exchange for his obedience was already generous. To put it bluntly, even if Kei bypassed the daimyo and carried this out purely under Konoha's name, the daimyo would have no way to stop it. Kei was certain the current daimyo would be obedient. Since the tobacco and casino monopoly works so well, should we expand state-run business even further? Koharu asked. This attempt had given Konoha a taste of success. It turned out they did not have to rely only on mission commissions and daimyo funding. Simply using Konoha's dominant position to build a monopoly could produce profit on this scale. If monopolizing tobacco and casinos worked, would it not be even better to expand further? That thought was now in everyone's mind. Among them, Danzo's ideas were the most radical. He advocated bringing all profitable industries under Konoha's control, operating them through Konoha's own enterprises. If Konoha monopolized the entire Land of Fire market, the benefits would be enormous. To be fair, at this moment, his idea even gained support from many people present. As shinobi, they had never witnessed the hidden harm of heavy state monopolies. They only saw the benefits and the massive profit. But Kei did not intend to make that mistake. Bringing most industries under Konoha's control is not advisable. However, it is necessary to expand appropriately. He thought for a moment, then spoke, adding 2 industries into the scope of state monopoly. And electricity. Yes, the shinobi world already had electricity. Not only electricity, but even some simple electrical appliances had already appeared. However, due to the limitations of the era, these new technologies were still clumsy, and development was slow. But Kei understood the potential of this field. So at this time, he established Konoha Electricity, preparing for future development. Using chakra as an energy source was convenient, but it relied too heavily on individual refinement. If there were no other path, that would be one thing. But since another option existed, it had to be seized. Moving forward on both fronts was better than choosing only one. The advisors present were puzzled by Kei's choice, but none of them voiced objections. This was the prestige earned through the success of the tobacco and casino monopoly. Even if they held doubts for the moment, they would not argue. They would simply carry out the orders. In addition, the Ninja Academy system must also be changed. Kei continued. Lady Nito and I have discussed it for a long time. Our current system in Konoha is still too crude. It must be reformed. Starting today, the Ninja Academy will be renamed the Junior Ninja Academy, and a Middle Ninja Academy will be added on this basis. In the future, those who pass the Junior Ninja Academy examination and obtain the rank of Genin may enter the Middle Ninja Academy for 3 years of study. As long as they pass the Middle Ninja Academy examination, they will be granted the rank of Chunin. Middle Ninja Academy? Kagami was stunned. Can the rank of Chunin be granted just by passing the Academy examination? Then what about the Chunin exams? They will proceed as usual. You explained. Genin who do not pass the Middle Ninja Academy examination can still register for the public Chunin exams. Once they pass, they will be granted the rank of Chunin. The purpose of this system is mainly to protect Konoha's children, and to provide a platform for further study for shinobi with potential. In the previous war, to win, we dispatched many genin to the battlefield. That caused huge casualties, yet produced relatively little result. On a shinobi battlefield, the combat value a genin could provide was extremely limited. Because most genin did not possess impressive abilities. At best, they had a few basic techniques, some taijutsu, and perhaps a bit of shuriken jutsu. In later generations, someone like Sasuke, who could already use ninjutsu at the genin stage, was enough to shock many people. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03 One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 84, Open Strategy. 1632 words. Chapter 84, Open Strategy. In Kei's view, sending people who clearly lacked professional ability to the battlefield was unnecessary. Especially when those people were children. Aside from a small number of veteran genin who spent their lives merely getting by, most genin were not old at all. By Kei's standards, they were still just kids. If they did not die on missions or on the battlefield, these children could have had bright futures. Many geniuses likely died early because of this. Take Minato Namikaze, for example. If he had not been taken in early by Jiraiya and made a name for himself, who could say he would not have died in some accident on the battlefield, unknown and forgotten? So, in Kei's eyes, reforming the Ninja Academy, extending the training period as much as possible, and giving shinobi enough time to develop was necessary. In his opinion, it was still far too much to ask for genin to participate in war. In the near future, those sent to the battlefield should be at least chunin. Otherwise, if you cannot even use a single ninjutsu and only possess crude taijutsu, what are you being sent to the battlefield for? The Middle Ninja Academy will teach techniques. Kei spoke clearly. During his lifetime, the second Hokage created many techniques, and many of them are very suitable for popularization. For example, the multiple shadow clone jutsu. Unlike ordinary clone techniques that were only visual illusions, the multiple shadow clone jutsu created by Tobirama produced physical bodies. Those clones could fight in place of the original, gather intelligence, and even train on one's behalf. It was a high-quality, multi-purpose ninjutsu. Leaving it locked away in sealing scrolls so that only a few shinobi could learn it would be a waste. In Kei's vision, this technique should become standard equipment for Konoha's future chunin. The basic standard for chunin was not complicated. Being able to master a few offensive ninjutsu, possessing a solid taijutsu foundation, and then adding multiple shadow clone on top of that, already created a reliable chunin combatant. Multiple shadow clone jutsu? That's an A-rank ninjutsu created by Naidame-sama. He's even willing to bring out a technique like that. Hearing Kei's words, the people present could not hide their astonishment. Later generations often gave people the illusion that physical clones were common, as if everyone knew them and they were just standard gear. That illusion came from the fact that the people the protagonist encountered were always too high-end, either Hokage level or S-rank rogue shinobi. And on the rare occasions they met genin, they were either geniuses like Niji and Gaara, or schemers like Kabuto. So techniques like multiple shadow clones seemed ordinary. In reality, very few people could master it proficiently. Especially at the chunin level. The fact that Kei was willing to bring it into the academy showed real sincerity. The representatives could not help but feel tempted. If that was the case, this Middle Ninja Academy might actually be worth it. Most ninja clans did possess secret techniques. But to be honest, the effectiveness of many secret techniques was merely average. Strictly speaking, some of them might not even compare to multiple shadow clone. In the past, the clans had refused to send their children to the academy because they looked down on what was taught there. It was too low level and did not benefit clan heirs. But now, the situation seemed to be changing. As the head of the Uchiha clan, I represent the Uchiha clan in donating several techniques. Kei smiled as he spoke. On behalf of the Uchiha, he donated several offensive fire release techniques. The Uchiha's fire release was famous for a reason. They were known as a clan that played with fire, and their attainments in fire release were excellent. The techniques Kei donated ranged from the most common Great Fireball Jutsu to higher level fire release. This was also a subtle way to increase the Uchiha's influence. The academy was for teaching students. Donating a technique did not mean students would instantly master it. To truly learn these techniques, they needed instructors. So who in Konoha was most proficient with them? Naturally, the Uchiha. With this single move, Kei could reasonably place Uchiha shinobi into the academy as instructors, quietly expanding the clan's influence. If in the future every shinobi in Konoha learned Uchiha fire release under Uchiha instructors, that would create an invisible bond of gratitude. the benefits behind that were countless. In addition to the Uchiha's fire release donations, I personally donate several medical ninjutsu I created. Kei's voice remained steady. I will temporarily serve as the dean of the Middle Ninja Academy, and I will personally teach some of the medical ninjutsu. The Senju clan will donate some water release ninjutsu created by Tobarama-sama. Mito-sama will represent the Uzumaki clan in donating some sealing techniques. The Sarutobi clan will donate other basic 5-element ninjutsu. To better instruct the students, the instructors of the Middle Ninja Academy will be specially dispatched from the Uchiha, Senju, Sarutobi, and Uzumaki clans. He looked at everyone present and smiled. What do you all think? Torafu and the others were completely stunned. Or rather, their minds felt dazed. Good grief! This was a truly grand gesture. Uchiha fire release. Senju water release. Uzumaki sealing techniques. Sarutobi 5-element basics. Even if each family only contributed a portion, the combined accumulation was massive. The foundation created by these techniques alone was enough to crush the vast majority of ninja clans in Konoha. Forget civilian shinobi. Even shinobi from ninja clans could not help but feel tempted. But what did it mean to have Uchiha, Senju, Sarutobi, and Uzumaki serving as long-term instructors? No one here was a fool. In only a short moment, they realized what this truly meant. If those clans became permanent instructors, then in the future, most shinobi in Konoha would grow up under the tutelage of the major clans. That meant that even if those clans weakened later and lacked enough powerful members, they could still maintain enormous influence and even affect Konoha's politics. The interests involved were immense. The most brilliant part was that no one could object. The techniques were donated by those clans. If they were not allowed to send instructors, then who would teach? This was an open strategy. Is this your vision? Kagami and Kawaki stood to the side. After exchanging a glance, both felt admiration in their hearts. Before this, they had not imagined influence could be expanded in this way. The beauty of it was that in name and in reality, it was all for Konoha. In logic and in execution, no one could find fault with it. Hokage-sama. The Nara clan head suddenly spoke. Establishing an academy is a matter for everyone in the village. Our Nara clan also wishes to donate some ninjutsu. May we be allowed? Kei's expression did not change. He glanced at the man and nodded. Naturally. Konoha belongs to everyone, and the Ninja Academy is an academy for all Konoha shinobi. It is a good thing that everyone wishes to contribute. In that case, the Nara clan is willing to donate the shadow imitation technique and send corresponding clan members as instructors. After receiving Kei's approval, the Nara clan head spoke without hesitation. His goal was direct. With the open strategy you had laid out, even if you saw through the purpose, you still had no choice but to join. When the tide of the era crashes down, it does not care what you want. If you refuse to join, you will only be crushed. So since they could not refuse, it was better to enter and become part of it. As long as the Nara secured a place in the academy, it would not be a bad outcome for their clan. The Nara had developed a series of release-based secret techniques, including shadow imitation. The core secrets could not be handed over, but basic techniques could. At that moment, other clans reacted as well. The other two clans of the Ino Shika-cho quickly followed. The Yamanaka clan is willing to donate the mind-sensing technique. The Akimichi clan is willing to donate the digestion technique. Even Danzo looked up and spoke in a deep voice. The Shimura clan is also willing to donate several wind release techniques. In an instant, one representative after another began speaking. In the end, aside from a few clans represented by the Hyuga, nearly everyone expressed willingness to join. With the support and participation of these clans, even though the Middle Ninja Academy had not yet been formally established and was still in preparation, it already possessed a vast foundation. Very good. Seeing that everyone was sensible, a smile appeared on Kei's face. Since we have a Middle Ninja Academy, we should also change the curriculum system of the Junior Ninja Academy. From now on, the Junior Ninja Academy will focus on fundamentals, emphasizing taijutsu and chakra control. As for learning techniques, that can come later. Now that there was a Middle Ninja Academy, the Junior Academy could be more purely foundational. At the very least, chakra control training such as tree climbing and water walking should be taught early. In later years, Naruto and Sasuke only truly practiced chakra control under Kakashi's guidance after becoming genin. To Kei, that was ridiculous. Anything that built a foundation without harming physical development should be taught early. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 85, Striking Out. 1,655 words. Chapter 85, Striking Out. Under Konoha's current training system, the Junior Ninja Academy required 6 years of study to build a solid foundation. The Middle Ninja Academy was meant for deeper learning and technique instruction, lasting 3 years. In the future, once enough Chunin graduates had been trained, a High Ninja Academy would be opened, dedicated to cultivating Jonin. That High Ninja Academy would also run for 3 years, allowing students to study nature transformation and pursue deeper specialization in certain fields. Of course, that was for the future. It was still too early right now. One had to eat one bite at a time. There was no need to rush. Under Kei's leadership, Konoha began a large-scale restructuring. Have you heard? Inside the Ninja Academy, Jiraiya excitedly ran to find Orochimaru and the others. The graduation exam is about to happen. As long as you pass the assessment, you can enter the Middle Academy. And once you graduate from there, you'll become Chunin directly. I heard that in the Middle Academy, you can choose your own classes. Aside from a few compulsory courses, you can pick all the rest yourself. Is that so? The young Orochimaru showed clear interest. What kind of courses can we choose? I'm not sure about the details. Someone nearby spoke up. But from what we've gathered so far, there are Genjutsu classes taught by the Yuhi clan, Kenjutsu and Taijutsu from the Hatake clan, Fire Release from the Uchiha clan, and Sealing Techniques from the Uzumaki clan. Those are the great clan's strongest heritages. Jiraiya was overjoyed. As long as I can get in, I'm definitely going to make it big. When the time comes, I'll be the coolest one, and Tsunade will finally see me differently. You should focus on raising your scores first. Orochimaru glanced at him. You're dead last. You failed the last assessment again, didn't you? I heard the requirements to enter the Middle Academy are much stricter than the old graduation exam. Only the top fifth of the class can get in. Hearing that, Jiraiya froze. Just like Uzumaki Naruto later on, the young Jiraiya was also the dead last in school. His grades were a disaster, a sharp contrast to the genius Orochimaru. I hate exams. He wailed, already feeling desperate. It isn't completely hopeless. The student beside him thought for a moment, then spoke again. I heard the promotion exam is different from the old Genin graduation. They added many items related to taijutsu and actual combat. With Jiraiya's ability, if he performs well in the taijutsu and combat tests, he might actually pass. Jiraiya's written grades were naturally a mess. But when it came to taijutsu and real combat, he was not bad at all. His physical talent was excellent, and his chakra reserves were massive compared to others, so his combat performance was outstanding. In that regard, he was very similar to the later Naruto. There was a reason he could become Naruto's teacher. I knew it. The moment he heard about combat and taijutsu, Jiraiya became smug again. This great me is a genius. How could they eliminate me? Idiot. Watching him, Orochimaru shook his head, then asked curiously. Is it really true we can choose any course? That's what I heard. The other student nodded. As long as you pass, you can choose whatever you want. If you have enough energy and time, it wouldn't even violate the rules to sign up for every teacher's course. That sounds pretty good. A smile appeared on Orochimaru's face. The Orochimaru of today had not yet become as cold and dark as he would later. In his youth, he looked like a handsome boy, and his greatest hobby was learning. He was a genius who learned quickly, and he was naturally curious about techniques, wanting to acquire as many ninjutsu as possible. From that perspective, the Middle Ninja Academy created by Kei was perfect for him. It was an ideal place to go. I heard that not only the clans, but even Hokage-sama himself will serve as a teacher in the academy, teaching some ninjutsu courses. Someone who had scouted the news could not help but share it. Unsurprisingly, the moment it spread, it drew immediate attention. If Hokage-sama teaches personally, the techniques he imparts must be powerful. Orochimaru thought quietly, and the image of Kei flashed through his mind. He had already seen Kei many times. In the academy, he was one of Tsunade's few friends and had interacted with her. And because Kei and Tsunade were close, Orochimaru had naturally had contact with Kei over time. It was simply that back then, Kei was only the head of Konoha's medical department, not yet the Hokage. Within Konoha, everything progressed steadily. Reforms unfolded one after another. They changed the village's environment, but not to the point that people could not adapt. Everything was moving in a better direction. Outside Konoha, the situation was changing as well. In the earlier Kumogakure coup, not only had Konoha's second Hokage died, but Kumogakure's second Raikage had also been killed by the Kinkaku brothers. To avenge the second Raikage, the newly succeeded third Raikage had already led an army to suppress the rebellion, and he was now locked in a stalemate with the rebel forces led by Kinkaku and Ginkaku. When this news reached Konoha, disagreement immediately erupted within the advisors. One side believed this was an internal matter of the Land of Lightning and that Konoha had no need to interfere. At present, after Kei's reorganization, Konoha was developing extremely well. Everything was moving in a thriving direction. If they rashly involved themselves in the Land of Lightning's internal conflict, they might disrupt that momentum. That would be unfortunate. The other side, supporting a deployment, used avenging Tobirama as their reason. No matter what, Konoha's second Hokage had died at the hands of the Kinkaku brothers. That grudge could not be ignored. Both sides argued, then finally turned their eyes toward Kei, who sat at the head. Send the troops. On this issue, Kei did not hesitate at all. He made the decision immediately. Regardless of anything else, the fact that Tobirama-sama died at the hands of the Kinkaku brothers is indisputable. His voice was calm. Even if it is only to preserve the village's face, we must send troops to deal with the Kinkaku brothers. The second Raikage is dead, and the third Raikage is avenging him. Does no one care that our Hokage is dead? As he spoke, Kei rose from his seat, his expression exceptionally resolute. No matter what, they must pay the price. Yes. Seeing Kei decide, the people below nodded, and the hesitation disappeared. Sending troops into a war was never an easy choice. Once an army marched, there would be casualties, and there would be heavy resource consumption. That was an enormous burden on the village's finances. Fortunately, due to the earlier reforms, the village's income had increased significantly, and their hands were now full. Otherwise, with Konoha's current condition, even gathering expedition funds would have been difficult. The army departed and soon reached the border of the Land of Lightning. Not only the third Raikage, but even Konoha's third Hokage has come? In a war zone, Kinkaku stared at the report in front of him, his expression turning ferocious. He was extremely tall. Even standing still, he carried an overwhelming sense of pressure. Most striking of all were the two horns on his head. They made him look nothing like an ordinary person. His brother, Ginkaku, was the same. He was also a burly shinobi. When the two brothers stood together, even their mere presence made the air feel heavy. The Raikage plus the Hokage? A cruel smile spread across Ginkaku's face. It really makes the blood boil. Killing a second Hokage and a second Raikage wasn't enough. Now the third generation Hokage and Raikage are coming here to die too. Then let them come. Kinkaku spoke coldly. Let them see the strength of us brothers. With that, he took a step forward and walked out. On the other side, Kei successfully met the third Reikage. The newly succeeded third Reikage was in his prime. Looking at Kei, he could not hide his surprise. Is Konoha out of people? They let a kid become Hokage? Compared to the burly third Reikage, the 15-year-old Kei could indeed be called a child. Kei met his gaze without flinching, expression calm. The same could be said of you. In the Great Kumogakure, the position of Reikage has been inherited by one family for 3 generations. Is it because aside from the Reikage's family, Kumogakure cannot find anyone else worth using? Your tongue is sharp. The third Reikage stared at him. I just don't know whether the strength in your hands matches it. You will see. Kei replied evenly, looking at him with quiet indifference. In his eyes, a pair of crimson Sharingan emerged, releasing immense pressure. Humph! In the next instant, the third Reikage attacked without warning. Black lightning coiled around his body, and his speed exploded, turning into a blur as he charged straight forward. 4 fingers thrust out. Hell stab, 4-finger Nukite. In the shinobi world's history, the third Reikage was known as the strongest spear and the strongest shield. The strongest shield referred to the overwhelming defense of his unique lightning release chakra mode. The strongest spear referred to the terrifying piercing power created by his monstrous speed. Under lightning release chakra mode, his cells were fully activated, and his speed became extreme. In that state, he could pierce through solid objects with ease. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 86, The Kinkaku Brothers. 1564 words. Chapter 86, The Kinkaku Brothers. Bang! As the third Reikage moved, a chain of booms cracked through the air. That was the sound of breaking the sound barrier, the shockwaves vibrating the surroundings with brutal force. Hokage-sama. Behind Kei, Danzo and the others could only catch an afterimage. They did not even have time to react. Even Kagami, with the Sharingan, could only barely glimpse the third Reikage's movement. But seeing was one thing. Reacting was another. Compared to the third Reikage, their speed was simply too slow. As the third Reikage lunged forward, Kei's figure vanished. The ground where Kei had been standing was struck head-on. The impact blasted out a massive crater, terrifying to behold. Yet Kei appeared off to the side as if nothing had happened. Too slow. His voice drifted out calmly. Then a kunai stabbed forward, aimed directly at the third Reikage's back. When did he? Feeling the movement behind him, the third Reikage's eyes widened in shock. Flying Thunder God technique? He naturally recognized Tobirama's spacetime ninjutsu. He had assumed that once Tobirama died, no one in Konoha would be able to use it again. He did not expect to see it now. But after sensing Kei's strike, the third Reikage could not help but sneer. Are you just scratching an itch? Under lightning release chakra mode, not only did his speed explode, his body also became nearly indestructible. That was the true meaning behind the title Strongest Shield. Sure enough, when the kunai stabbed into his back, it felt like striking an unbreakable block of steel. The blade would not pierce at all. The strongest shield really does live up to its reputation. Kei nodded, not surprised. But what if I do this? In the next moment, he swung the kunai in a heavy slash. Chakra surged, and the force condensed into a cutting wave that shot forward. That strike contained wind release nature transformation. Compared to an ordinary slash, it was far more violent, carrying a razor intent that felt capable of cutting anything apart. The third Reikage's pupils tightened. He did not try to tank it head-on. Instead, he burst forward. With the terrifying speed of the strongest spear, he leaped, leaving behind afterimages that looked fiercely unreal. However, fast as he was, Kei was faster. He not only had extraordinary reaction speed, he also had the Sharingan's dynamic vision. Combined with Flying Thunder God, it produced an effect not much worse than Minato Namikaze. After all, Minato's nervous reaction was sharp, but in pure dynamic observation, he could not match Kei's Sharingan. The two crossed again and again, a speedster duel that left the onlookers dizzy. That is Sensei's Flying Thunder God technique. To think he's mastered it to this extent. Kagami and the others were shaken to the core, at a loss for words. As Tobirama's students, they had seen Flying Thunder God with their own eyes. Because of that, they understood even more clearly how terrifying Kei was. In terms of executing Flying Thunder God alone, Kei's current performance was actually superior to Tobirama's in the past. I see. Behind them, Kawaki and other Uchiha wore fanatical expressions. The space-time teleportation of Flying Thunder God combined with our Sharingan's dynamic vision can explode with this kind of effect. They could already imagine Kei appearing on the battlefield. Rapid space-time shifts, and on top of that, the Sharingan reading movements and reacting instantly. The result would be catastrophic. Even Tobirama might not compare to him in this regard. Damn it! The third Reikage roared and threw a punch forward. But in the next instant, Kei vanished again, just like that. For the third Reikage, this was the most frustrating battle imaginable. Facing Kei, the godlike speed he took pride in could not be used at all. He was suppressed from start to finish. The piercing power of the strongest spear was meaningless if it could not hit. Judging by Kei's reactions, even touching him was difficult. Defeating him was impossible. If not for the defense provided by Lightning Release Chakra Mode, the third Reikage would be in far worse condition. If an ordinary shinobi were here, even a so-called Kage level 1, they would likely have been worn down to death by Kei long ago. Do you want to continue? From the distance, Kei's voice rang out. He stood calmly at range, looking at the third Reikage with an even expression. If you want to keep going, I'm happy to oblige. No more. The third Reikage shook his head and directly deactivated Lightning Release Chakra Mode. Your Flying Thunder God technique is far stronger than Tobirama Senju's. He had seen Tobirama's Flying Thunder God before and never thought much of it. After personally facing Kei, he finally understood how disgusting it truly was. Tobirama's Flying Thunder God and Kei's felt like completely different techniques. After that exchange, the atmosphere between both sides became much more harmonious. Shinobi were like that. If your strength was enough, respect would follow naturally. That was especially true for Kumogakure. The Kinkoku brothers are inside. The third Reikage spoke. We'll cut our way in and deal with them. Is there anything we need to watch out for? You looked at him and asked. They have several of the Six Paths tools. The third Reikage explained. Those are treasures left behind by the Sage of Six Paths, with effects beyond ordinary imagination. After saying that, he hesitated, then still chose to share what he knew. The Kinkoku brothers held several tools. They were the Gold Rope, the Seven-Star Sword, the Crimson Gourd, the Bashozen, and the Amber Purifying Pot. The Gold Rope can pull out the soul of words, and the Seven-Star Sword can cast curses. The third Reikage continued. As for the other tools, I am not very clear. These Six Paths tools were mysterious in the Kinkoku brothers' hands. Even the third Reikage only knew part of their effects. Of course, it was also possible he knew more and simply did not want to say it. After all, those were secrets related to Kumogakure. But Kei felt the third Reikage likely knew less than he did. The tools in the Kinkoku brothers' possession were all strange. The gold rope extracted a person's word soul. Once struck, that word soul would be pulled out. The so-called word soul referred to the words a person said most frequently. After the gold rope extracted it, it could be applied to the Seven-Star Sword. Once the opponent spoke that word, the sword's curse could be triggered. At the same time, the Seven-Star Sword itself was extremely sharp, with powerful offensive ability. The Crimson Gourd could seal. Once the opponent spoke the word soul, its sealing power could suppress them. Even if someone was only marked and tried not to speak, the gourd still had a timeout mechanism that would eventually trigger the seal. These three tools complemented each other, forming a linked killing method. The Bashozen could unleash terrifying attacks. It could release one of the 5 basic nature types, or consume a massive amount of chakra to produce a 5-element burst comparable to a tailed beast ball. It was an extremely frightening offensive treasure. As for the amber purifying pot, it had its own sealing mechanism. One only needed to call the opponent's true name, and if the opponent answered, they would be sealed inside. This was also a mechanism-based tool like the first 3, but far simpler and more direct. Just calling the name was enough. Overall, aside from the Bashozen being straightforward, the other tools were all mechanism-based kills. Case estimated that the reason Tobirama had lost to the Kinkaku brothers, despite having Flying Thunder God, was likely because of these tools. Their effects were too bizarre. Without intelligence, encountering them for the first time could easily lead to death. But once you knew their methods, their threat dropped sharply. In the distance, the larger battle had already begun. Shinobi under the Kinkaku brothers were already clashing with the allied forces. Unsurprisingly, the rebels quickly fell into a disadvantage. The Kinkaku brothers were shinobi of Kumogakure. Their subordinates were naturally the same. Within Kumogakure, those willing to follow them in rebellion were never the majority. Now, facing the combined forces of Kumogakure and Konoha, they were suppressed at once. Seeing the situation, 2 burly figures stepped out from the front. What a rare scene! Kinkaku looked at the shinobi fighting ahead and sneered. It's rare to see this many people gathered. My blood's starting to boil. In the next moment, he swung the Bashozen forward with all his strength. 5-element burst. Terrifying 5-element power gathered within the fan, then surged out violently. The explosion tore through the battlefield. With a single strike, many shinobi on Kumogakure's side were killed or injured. Before an attack comparable to a tailed beast ball, ordinary shinobi were simply too fragile. Kinkaku, you deserve to die. Seeing the tragic state of his forces, the third Reikage eyes turned red with rage. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 87, Confronting the Enemy. 1716 words. Chapter 87, Confronting the Enemy. The newly inaugurated Third Reikage had a fiery temper. Looking at the tragic scene ahead, sudden rage flashed across his face. Without the slightest hesitation, he charged forward, preparing to personally take down the Kinkaku brothers. Already getting impatient? Kinkaku sneered, completely unconcerned by the Third Reikage charge as he raised the Bashozen high in his hand. In the next moment, terrifying chakra poured into it and erupted violently. 5 elements blast. This time, power comparable to a tailed beast ball smashed toward the Konoha side. If it struck, they would suffer the same fate as the Kumogakure side had just now. Not good. Everyone's expressions instantly turned grim, and they immediately moved to react. Kei's response was even faster than theirs. In a single instant, he rushed forward with lightning speed and blocked the path in front of the Konoha shinobi. Flying Thunder God formation. Runes flickered in midair one after another, and in the end, they actually teleported away the entire attack that was comparable to a tailed beast ball and redirected it into the distance. A terrifying sound thundered out. A mountain peak not far away was instantly blown apart, erased completely by the power of the redirected attack. Great! As expected of Hokage-sama. The people behind him could not help but feel their spirits rise. Their faces were filled with excitement as they watched the scene. Even the Third Reikage could not help but glance sideways in surprise. So this is the Flying Thunder God technique? To think it can even teleport away power on that level. He took a deep look at Kei in the distance, already sensing just how frightening this technique was. A near-absurd teleportation art like this, if used on the battlefield, was enough to turn its wielder into a terrifying killing machine. If nothing else, the ability to redirect an attack on the level of a tailed beast ball was already horrifying enough. If someone was caught off guard by that move, who could possibly defend against it? Fortunately, the two sides were allies for now, so there was no need to think too deeply about it. In front of the Konoha camp, Kei was actually far less relaxed than he appeared. This move consumes too much chakra. Standing where he was, he frowned slightly as he felt the chakra draining from his body. Using Flying Thunder God to perform such a series of actions might have looked effortless from the outside, but the chakra cost was enormous. It could not be helped. He was not some monster of chakra. He could not sustain endless high-level usage the way the future Naruto would. The Uchiha bloodline did increase chakra capacity, but it was nowhere near the absurd reserves of the Uzumaki. At that thought, he stopped hesitating and charged forward at once, not giving the enemy any chance to launch another attack. Oh my, that's really something. Across from him, the Kinkaku brothers looked at Kei with surprise on their faces. This third Hokage's use of Flying Thunder God actually surpasses Senju Tobarama's. It doesn't matter. A cruel grin spread across Ginkaku's face. Killing an opponent like this is what makes it interesting, isn't it? Boom! In just an instant, the third Raikage shot forward. Under lightning release chakra mode, his speed was overwhelming. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the Kinkaku brothers and thrust 4 fingers forward. Kinkaku, go to hell! He roared, and the burst of speed and piercing power that belonged to the strongest spear sent Kinkaku flying. The one who should die is you. The Kinkaku brothers roared and charged forward together. Light flashed across the Bashozen, and the ground changed immediately. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. The earth beneath the third Raikage's feet instantly sank and turned into a quagmire, restricting his movement. Then a giant hand rose from below and grabbed him directly in its grasp. Die! Ginkaku roared as the 7-star sword in his hand slashed forward, aiming to take the third Raikage's head. A series of sharp sounds tore through the air. Several kunai shot forward, accurately piercing toward the Kinkaku brothers' vital points and sealing off all their possible angles of movement. Ha! In the next moment, Kinkaku instinctively raised the Bashozen in front of him to block. In front of the fan, a ninja sword thrust forward and struck it directly with a crisp metallic sound. That ninja sword carried massive wind-release chakra, enough to tear through almost anything it struck. And yet, when it hit the Bashozen, not even the slightest ripple or damage appeared. So these are the legendary Sage of Six Paths tools. Feeling the solidity of the Bashozen, Kei was somewhat surprised. They certainly live up to their reputation. Ha! Kinkaku sneered. So you're the newly inaugurated Hokage? You've got a decent face. I just wonder what it feels like to kill you. Boom! Terrifying power crashed down. In the next moment, the ninja sword in Kei's hand slashed forward, bypassing the Bashozen's defense at a bizarre angle and continuing toward Kinkaku. Don't even think about it. From behind, Ginkaku's voice rang out. He let out a low growl, and the gold rope in his hand swept forward. Driven by chakra, the Six Paths tool seemed to come alive, pressing down toward Kei as if trying to bind him on the spot. Got you! The gold rope fell with incredible speed, reaching Kei almost instantly. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Ginkaku's face, and he clenched one fist tightly. Under his control, the gold rope instantly tightened. But in the next moment, Kei's figure vanished. What? Ginkaku froze for an instant. Then a ninja sword slashed down. A violent tearing sound followed, nearly taking off Ginkaku's head. At the critical moment, he finally reacted and twisted his body just enough to avoid the worst of it. The ninja sword still struck his armor, leaving a shallow wound. Such speed! The Kinkaku brothers' expressions turned solemn as they prepared to attack again. Black lightning flashed through the air. It was the third Raikage. He had already broken free from the restraint and appeared before the brothers in an instant, thrusting 4 fingers forward. Hell stab, 4-finger Nukite! The Kinkaku brothers were sent flying on the spot, their bodies nearly pierced through by the strongest spear. Damn it! Only then did the Kinkaku brothers truly realize how dire the situation was. Their power rested not only on their personal strength, but even more on the Six Paths tools in their hands. But against the third Raikage and third Hokage, the advantage of those tools had been reduced dramatically. One reason was that both opponents possessed godlike speed, making the tools hard to land. The other was that both of them seemed to know the effects of the Six Paths tools already. The tools were built around gimmicks. Against someone unfamiliar with them, they were terrifying. Even a man like Tobirama had stood a high chance of being killed the first time he encountered them. But once their abilities were understood, their deterrent power dropped sharply. Against these two Kage, they held no real advantage, whether in strength or information. How about one each? Looking at the Kinkaku brothers ahead, Kei stood side by side with the third Raikage and spoke calmly. Good. The third Raikage nodded. The brothers' coordination was too perfect. Wielding the Six Paths tools together, they could unleash combat power far beyond what ordinary people could handle. If they wanted to deal with them efficiently, splitting them up was the best solution. The third Raikage charged forward, heading straight for Ginkaku. Hell stab, three-finger Nukite. He retracted one finger, making the power of the attack even greater, and immediately sent Ginkaku flying. Ginkaku! Kinkaku roared and moved to help his brother, only for a figure to block his way. Your opponent is me. Kei's face remained calm as he spoke indifferently. He pointed his ninja sword forward and slashed down. Wind chakra surged into the blade, causing every strike to carry tearing, cutting force. Kinkaku retreated continuously, only barely avoiding the attacks. So this is Senju Tobirama's sword style? He recognized the swordsmanship and could not help but frown. Correct. Kei replied evenly. You should consider it an honor to die beneath this sword technique. He had only begun studying swordsmanship after reincarnating into this world. And his teacher had been none other than Konoha's second Hokage, Tobirama. Tobirama had died at the hands of the Kinkaku brothers. If Kei could now use the swordsmanship Tobirama passed down to slay that enemy, it would count as vengeance. You think too highly of yourself. Kinkaku snarled. Let's see whether you actually have the ability. In the next moment, he waved the Bashozen in his hand, and powerful chakra gathered. Wind release, wind blade. The massive wind release attack tore forward, but it did not even touch Kei's skin. In a single instant, Kei used Flying Thunder God and vanished. Damn it, Flying Thunder God really is impossible to deal with. Kinkaku's mind raced. But from what I know, Flying Thunder God requires a mark to teleport. Where is his mark? As someone who had once fought Tobirama, he was very familiar with the strengths and weaknesses of Flying Thunder God. So he immediately began searching the surroundings, trying to find any hidden marks. A ninja sword thrust forward with a roar, slashing down, but ended up striking against the Bashozen once again. A smile appeared on Kinkaku's face. Got you. He was just about to say more, when his eyes widened in shock. Kei raised one hand high. A Rasengan formed within his palm, condensing with a dense, spiraling force. Then he drove it straight forward. At point-blank range, the Rasengan met almost no resistance as it smashed heavily into Kinkaku's chest and left a huge dent in his armor. Blood burst outward, spraying everywhere. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Chapter 88, Tailed Beast Transformation. 1707 words. Chapter 88, Tailed Beast Transformation. Ah! Kinkaku's body shot backward. After taking the Rasengan head-on, he now had a fresh wound torn open across his body, blood pouring out without pause. Without hesitating for even a moment, he immediately used a ninjutsu to temporarily seal the wound. Then, in the next instant, he formed hand seals with both hands. Summoning Jutsu. A massive vessel appeared before him, materializing directly in front of his body. Is that the amber purifying pot? Looking at the huge bottle before Kinkaku, a thought flashed through Kei's mind. He's planning to use the amber purifying pot to seal me? Third Hokage, if I call your name, do you dare answer? Kinkaku roared loudly. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent. Then, in the next instant, Kei vanished forward and slashed down with his sword. The heavy blade came down in a fierce arc, forcing Kinkaku to flee in a panic, his face filled with unwillingness. Damn it! The enemy truly knew the abilities of the Six Paths tools. The effect of the amber purifying pot was simple and brutal. As long as the target answered once, the condition was triggered, and the sealing power of the pot would activate. But Kei had known this from the beginning, so naturally, he would never fall for it. In fact, from the very moment he stepped onto the battlefield against the Kinkaku brothers, he had already decided not to answer a single word to either of them, focusing only on ending the fight as quickly as possible. Kinkaku retreated rapidly, looking extremely disheveled. At this moment, he was barely managing to defend himself. Then, in the next instant, he let out a furious roar. A violent and terrifying aura spread through the battlefield, surging out in all directions. Kei stood in place and looked ahead. A crimson chakra shroud suddenly exploded from Kinkaku's body. As that abnormal chakra emerged, every wound on his body healed completely, recovering at a visible speed. In the blink of an eye, his original form twisted and changed. He became a huge red monster. Behind him, two crimson tails extended outward, radiating an ominous and terrifying presence. This is the Nine Tails chakra. Kei's expression turned grave. Tailed beast transformation? The Kinkaku brothers were not ordinary people. When they were young, they had been swallowed by the Nine Tails. They somehow survived within its stomach for a period of time, and not only did they survive, they lived by consuming the flesh within its belly, thereby obtaining the Nine Tails chakra. Because of that, although they were not Jinchuriki, they could still wield the Nine Tails power, and in critical moments, they could even enter a tailed beast transformation. Just like now. You damned bastard. After transforming, Kinkaku's voice became even more savage and terrifying. He let out a low growl. Go die. As the words fell, a massive tailed beast ball condensed in his mouth and fired straight ahead. The tailed beast ball exploded, flattening the ground ahead into ruins. Kei's figure disappeared from the spot, escaping instantly through Flying Thunder God. He reappeared at a distance, staring at Kinkaku as his Sharingan spun into place. Ah! Under the dojutsu influence of the Sharingan, Kinkaku's movements instinctively stalled for a moment. For tailed beasts, the Sharingan was undoubtedly a natural enemy. Even the full Nine Tails, without a Jinchuriki host, could be controlled by the Sharingan. But Kinkaku only froze for an instant. In the next moment, clarity returned to his eyes, followed immediately by even greater violence. He let out a deep roar, and the number of tails behind him continued to increase. In a blink, the two tails doubled into 4. Damn it! Kei could not help but frown. The tailed beast chakra is too violent. It was true that tailed beasts were naturally weak against the Sharingan. But Kinkaku was not actually a tailed beast. He was merely a human who possessed tailed beast chakra. And after entering this transformation, the chakra around him had become too violent and chaotic, making him even harder to control. With only his current 3 Tomo Sharingan, fully dominating it was extremely difficult. The tailed beast ball continued to wreak havoc. After entering tailed beast transformation, Kinkaku was even more berserk, looking no different from a demon. He crouched low on the ground, letting out a terrifying laugh, the monstrous aura of his chakra enough to chill the bone. Ha 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 ha. Die. He charged straight toward Kei and slammed one palm down. The ground collapsed, shattering outward in every direction. Kei. In the distance, Kagami and the others watched the battle and were immediately horrified. At that moment, facing the transformed Kinkaku and sensing that terrifying pressure, their bodies trembled. So this is the power of a tailed beast? This is only a partial transformation. What would the real Nine Tails be like? The thought flashed through their minds. We need to help him. Kagami spoke at once. We can't let Kei fight alone. No, we can't go. Hamura stopped him, shaking his head with a grave expression. This battlefield is already beyond something we can participate in. If we rush in, we may only become a burden to Kei. Trust him. Even if he can't win, with Flying Thunder God, at the very least he should still be able to leave. They spoke like that and chose not to join the battle. There was no helping it. The battlefield in front of them was simply too terrifying. Against a force like tailed beast transformation, something closer to a natural disaster than a human opponent, the power of ordinary shinobi was insignificant. Even those at so-called Kage level would feel powerless in such a place. Kei's figure flickered rapidly through the air. The pale silver ninja sword in his hand came slashing down. Enhanced with wind release chakra, the blade became incomparably sharp, like a divine weapon able to cut through anything. It gave off an absolutely terrifying feeling. Yet even such a powerful strike, though it cut through Kinkaku's tailed beast cloak, failed to inflict deeper damage. Kei could not help but feel troubled. His abilities could be said to be comprehensive in every direction. In movement and speed, he had Flying Thunder God, nearly untouchable. In Genjutsu and control, he had the Sharingan, leaving little weakness there either. With those two as a base, plus top-class medical ninjutsu and healing ability, he was close to having no blind spots at all. Against ordinary enemies, no matter how strong, he could at least guarantee he would not lose. But now, facing an opponent like Kinkaku, who could enter tailed beast transformation, his weakness in raw offensive power had been exposed. A ninja sword could kill ordinary people. Even the strongest shinobi would eventually die if pierced through by his blade. But against an opponent with tailed beast transformation, it was not enough. No, even against the third Reikage, though the Reikage could not do much to Kei would also struggle to break through his defense. That revealed his weakness. He lacked a true decisive, one-shot offensive ninjutsu. It seems after I return, I'll have to study techniques in this area. Standing in place, Kei shook his head lightly. But in the original history, how exactly did the third Reikage deal with these two? At this moment, Kei was genuinely puzzled. The strength of the Kinkaku brothers was undeniably terrifying. Even setting aside the six paths tools, their own strength was firmly at the Kage level. They possessed powerful taijutsu and physical strength, enormous chakra reserves, and enough ability to use high-level ninjutsu. Each one of them alone was already formidable. On top of that, they had the Nine Tails chakra and could transform into a tailed beast state. Without a doubt, if Kage-level shinobi were divided into tiers, these two firmly belonged among the strong. With the third Reikage's strength, facing one of them alone, he might be able to capture them. But against both at once, he should inevitably be at a disadvantage. Yet in the original history, the third Reikage had taken them down by himself. How had he done it? Kei found it extremely strange. It was just like how the Kinkaku brothers had managed to pursue the elite Konoha unit led by Tobarama. That was another mystery he could not solve. Back when Tobarama and the second Reikage were negotiating peace, Kinkaku killing the second Reikage had been an ambush, so that could be set aside for now. But chasing down Tobarama's team was harder to explain. One had to remember that besides Tobarama himself, the Konoha side at that time included Hiruzen in his prime, Danzo, Koharu, Hamura, Kagami, and others. Among them, Hiruzen and Danzo were unquestionably Kage level. Hamura was only a step weaker than Hiruzen, still within the Kage level range. Koharu and Kagami might have been somewhat weaker, but they were at least elite Jonin. And beyond them, that team had also included guards like Torafu. It could be said to have been the strongest team Konoha could assemble at the time. Aside from Mito, who as the Nine Tails Jinchuriki was not present, nearly all of Konoha's high-end forces had been deployed. And what was the final result? Tobarama himself had to stay behind and buy time so Hiruzen and the others could escape. Thinking of it, Kei could only shake his head. No matter how the third Reikage had once captured the Kinkaku brothers, the one facing Kinkaku now was him, not the Reikage. This is going to be troublesome. He spoke softly and let out a quiet sigh. In the next moment, a diamond-shaped mark appeared on his forehead. A series of rune-like markings spread from it, curling across his face. The seal released. Standing there, his originally handsome face gained an indescribable, dangerous charm. In seal, release. If you don't want to wait for the next update, read 10 to 50 chapters ahead on Patreon. Patreon.com/fanficlord03. One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Soul Land, NBA, and more all in one place. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.